What's going on, y'all? It's been a minute. And if I'm gonna start this video off right, I'm gonna start it off by being honest with you. I have been trying to post this video for the past 2.5 weeks, and the only reason I haven't posted it yet is because of me. In my mind, this video is going to be the start of a brand new series that I will hopefully continuously post every 2 weeks until it's over or until something else happens. But with that in mind, am kind of been building it up as like the most amazing thing I've ever done on my channel. And I tried to make a really awesome intro that was B-roll, that was a montage, that had a perfect script of voiceover magic that accurately describes what you're about to watch and how special it is. That is something I cannot do with my talent set at this time. But what I can do is say, hi, I miss you. I think this video is going to be super fun and the start of something great, and I hope you like it. Here's how serious I take making these videos sometimes. This isn't even plugged in. This is not even what you're hearing me in right now. I just thought it would be really fancy to like hold the microphone as I spoke to you. Doesn't matter. What matters is you're about to watch something really special, and it's called Local Lottery. Here are the rules for Local Lottery. Every single episode, I'm going to be going to a brand new card shop here in Southern California, but I'm going to bring nothing with me, and I have to participate in at least one event. The twist is, I have no idea what card shop I'm going to until I record the episode. So it's going to be completely random, not only what events I partake in, but what shop I actually go to and show off to all of you at home. If this first episode is something you really like and want to see more of, be sure to let me know by smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel, and commenting down below all the things you loved about this episode. And also, all the things you didn't like about this episode, things you think I can improve on for the next one that's going to be coming out in 2 weeks. Everything is on the table, nothing is off limits. This is Local Lottery. Enjoy. All right, y'all. Welcome to the first episode of Local Lottery, the show where I have no idea what I'm going to do, nor where I'm going to do it. As you can see, I have a wheel of 10 different LGSs here in Southern California that we could possibly visit. Now, let's not have you wait any longer. Let's spin this wheel and see what destiny has in store for us today. Oh, this is so exciting. And there you go. It looks like Top Choice Gaming is the shop we are going to visit today, and wouldn't you know it, we're already here. Top Choice Gaming is a shop I've been to before. It's here in Colton, California. It's a more recent addition to the LGSs here in Southern California, and it's really well known for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game and more recently, the One Piece card game. Even though that is the case, and those are both games that I have experience in, I still have nothing with me. And I also don't know what events they do on random Wednesday afternoons. So we're gonna hop in there, talk with some people, figure some stuff out, and see what is available to us to participate in, and we're gonna do our level best. Let's check out the shop. Before we head into TCG, the game store, let's talk about a TCG you might have heard of before. Set 5 Undaunted Raid, the newest booster set in the My Hero collectible card game, is releasing June 30th. Starting today, June 23rd, and going all the way through June 30th, there's going to be pre-release events for this game where you can partake in sealed or draft play, which is personally one of my favorite ways to experience this game. Be sure to ask your local game store today if they're hosting any pre-releases, and if they're not, have them contact Jasco Games immediately because you never know what miracles could happen. If you plan on playing the My Hero card game, be sure to check out the link below to sign up for the UGN profile so you can actually participate in tournaments. Be sure to choose Content Creator in the section about how you heard about this, and type my name underneath so you can earn 50 free loyalty points for the loyalty shop and get some pretty cool promo cards that can definitely soup up any strategy you're trying to play. Huge shout out to Jasco Games for asking to be a part of this video. Let's get back to it. Here's what I've learned. Today's Wednesday, and that means here at Top Choice Gaming, aka TCG, they're hosting both Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece around 7 p.m. If my broken watch is correct for its first time today, it's 5 p.m. So I have 2 hours not only to pick which game I'm going to participate in, but also figure out how I'm going to build my deck and compete. I decided to, because I'm going to be building the deck basically from scratch using single cards and potentially sealed product from the store, I'm going to also impose a budget of $100 total to get everything I need. That includes sleeves as well as all of my cards. Given that I have a pretty decent knowledge of both games, I'm not really sure which one I want to participate in, and I'm going to be working with a budget anyway, and I have what I would say enough time. Let's kind of stay in the spirit of randomness that is local lottery and let a dice decide what game we play. Alright, y'all, here's the deal. I have a dice. Odds is Yu-Gi-Oh! Evens is One Piece. That's a 4. One Piece it is. Because we're doing One Piece, this gives me the rare opportunity to play a color I haven't really explored that much. Black. And because One Piece is still in its sort of early stages, only having 2 sets worth of product and a handful of starter decks, there's really not going to be a big imbalance of power if I can't get my hands on really powerful secret rares like the 10-drop Kuzan. Things like the 5-drop Garb, or even other methods of removal/cost reduction effects will more than supplement what I'm probably going to need in all the games that I play. So that's what I'm going to hopefully try to build in the next 30 minutes to an hour of just trying to gather as many cards as I can within my budget. So I'm going to go do all that and we'll check in together and see what happens. Alright, y'all, after what felt like an absolute marathon of trying to get cards and staying within budget for everything, including cards, sleeves, and entry fee, I was able to get all that you see here, and a little bit extra actually, so maybe we can change things last minute if we need to, for $101 after tax. And the leader that I went for was probably the best leader in black at the moment, Smoker, and I'm realizing now that this video might advertise to a lot of people who just in general love card games, so if you've never seen One Piece before, here's a basic breakdown of how it works. The game revolves around your leader cards battling your opponent's leaders, and the main resource we utilize to play cards and achieve those goals is Dawn. So you have to start the game with 10 different Dawn cards in your deck, and you can kind of gain these Dawn throughout the game based off the mechanics, and you use these Dawn to pay for the costs of cards like characters, and maybe even event cards / stage cards, and you use these cards to like interact with your opponent's board, set up your own, attack their characters, attack their leader, deal them damage, and just overall try to win the game. I'm going to do some test games with the players that came early for today's tournament. I still have, according to my broken watch, at least another hour to go. Hopefully this is the second time it's right for today. I'll be sure to check in with you if I make any last minute changes to the deck, but until then, this is what it looks like. I'm going to go play, and we'll check in later. Actually, everyone, we're going to be skipping the test games altogether and fast forwarding to round 1, where I was lucky enough to play on stream against my opponent playing Purple Kaido. This is going to be a super awesome match. Hopefully I'll be able to showcase some of the really powerful, sticky characters that Black gets to play, like Borsalino, or even like various other cards that can't be KO'd by card effects. You can kind of see here as we're getting ready to set up our opening hands, I'm looking pretty confident, even though I've literally only ever played 2 games with this $80 deck that I built before we got to the tournament. But here we go, I'm starting my opening turn drawing. I'm going to be activating 2 Dawn because I was lucky enough to go second. I do not have any turn 1 plays though, so I just pass it back to my opponent. They will be starting their second turn with 3 Dawn. They're going to rest it and activate the really powerful stage card Onigashima, which allows them to then add 1 extra Dawn to their Dawn pool, giving them a total of 4. After that, they're going to attack my leader for 5. I'm going to choose to take it. I'm going to take a really long look at this live card and then reveal it as Great Eruption to get one of the cards out of my opponent's hand, because even though I'm feeling pretty confident about my ability to stave off any character aggression from Kaido, making them lose cards early feels really nice. My opponent dishes a Magellan, which I then read and see that it has a Dawn minus effect that affects my board, which can be a little annoying. I activate my 2 Dawn, immediately attack with my leader so I can get a nice poke damage in against Kaido. I like to be the aggressor in this matchup and just force them into a bunch of unfavorable situations. And here we have the all-star Borsalino coming down. That is going to be an absolute rock star in this matchup, as it's not only a 6k blocker during my opponent's turn, but it cannot be KO'd by card effects, which is literally all purple can do. My opponent draws, activates their Dawn, ramps 1 extra Dawn thanks to their Onigashima, and now they have a lot to work with. They play a 6-drop king, but unfortunately my opponent activates the Dawn minus effect and declares target as Borsalino, and I just go, okay. because you can still target him for the effects of KOs, but he will be unaffected by them. My opponent did not realize that Borsellino was that good against purple. I decided once again just to get the pokes out of the way before I commit to playing any more cards. I do this to kind of make sure that if I do want to expunge more cards, I'm not opening myself up to potential trigger effects. I play one of the 4-drop Kuzans, on play draw a card, and then I leave 2 Dawn active for defense as I pass it back to my opponent. Yeah, my opponent just plays 2 blockers, attacks my leader with their king for 7,000. I again take forever to look at this life card, even though this one does not have a trigger effect at all, probably, just to add it to my hand. It's always good to play those kind of mind games with your opponent to make them always think you're looking at triggers, so that way they think you have really powerful event cards in hand that you can use for defense. My opponent then attaches 3 Dawn to their leader and attacks for 8,000 once again at my leader. I'm debating whether or not to take this, but I think it's worth the extra card. This brings me down to 2 life against my opponent's 3 life. I start my turn with 8 Dawn and immediately attach 2 Dawn to my 4-drop Kuzan, making him 7,000 base. I declare an attack at my opponent's king, 7,000 to 7,000. I then use his effect to reduce king's cost by 4, making it a 2-cost card. I then pay 3 Dawn, play the Kobe that's in my hand, discard 1 card for cost, and KO the now 2-costed king. I then poke my opponent once again for 5,000, eating up the blocker Maria, and I pass my turn back to my opponent. My opponent starts their turn and immediately pays 9 Dawn for the starter deck Kaido. On play, Dawn -5, KO one of my 6 cost or less characters, and gain rush for the turn. This card is really scary because even though I'm putting up a lot of cards on board, my opponent is kind of out-tempoing me, given that I'm at 2 life, they're at 3 life, they have a 10,000 base attacker, and the most I have is a 5,000 base attacker, which immediately gets KO'd by this card's effect. I take the 10,000 swing from the Kaido, going to 1 card in life. They then declare an attack with their 5,000 leader at my leader. I just throw out the counter, forgetting that I have Borsellino that can rest in 6,000. We love a -1 from hand, I suppose. I start my turn, go to the full 10 Dawn that I'm allowed in this game, and my first thought is, can I reasonably deal with this Kaido? The answer is no. I just continue poking my opponent for 5,000, demanding at least 1 card every single time, or else they take a damage. I then attack with my leader, getting rid of both the blocker and a card in hand. I play another Kuzan for that on-play draw 1, and then I play a second Borsellino down just to kind of solidify my defense. My opponent starts their turn, uses their Onigashima to go up 1 more Dawn, so that way they can get back to 10 as quickly as possible. My opponent swings with their 10,000 Kaido. I decide to block with Borsellino to kind of protect my life total, and immediately after I do that, he attaches 4 Dawn to his leader and attacks me for 9. Because the leader Kaido has a burn effect, I decide to take this life and keep it in my hand, because I think I have enough blockers to stave off my opponent's aggression. My opponent then ends their turn with 3 Dawn active. I declare an attack with Kuzan, reducing the cost of the 9-drop Kaido. I declare an attack with Kuzan. My opponent uses a 2K counter to protect their life total. I will use the effect of my leader Smoker to further reduce the 9-drop Kaido, making it a 4-cost card. I swing for 6 at my opponent's leader. They take this life card, adding it to their hand. I then play the 5-drop Monkey D. Garp, who allows me to instantly KO the now 4-costed Kaido by resting this card and discarding a card from my hand. I then end my turn by paying 4 Dawn and playing a 3rd Borsellino. My opponent plays the 5-drop Magellan, gets rid of 1 of my Dawn cards from the board, activates their Onigashima to get back the Dawn they just lost, and then they swing for 8,000 with their leader at my leader. I'm going to go ahead and use 2 2Ks from my hand, bringing my leader up to 9,000, stopping the battle. My opponent passes, I start my turn, go back to 10 Dawn, declare an attack with Kuzan on my opponent's leader, reducing Magellan to a cost of 1, attack the leader for 5 with Kobe, attach a Dawn to Smoker, reduce Magellan to a cost of 0, making my Smoker now 7,000 with the Dawn attached. I attach 2 more Dawn and swing at my opponent for 9,000 at their leader. They use Blast Breath as well as a 2K counter, bringing them up to 11, stopping my attack. I activate the effect of Monkey D. Garp to KO the now 0-costed Magellan. Because of Magellan's on KO effect, I return 2 Dawn cards from my board back to my Dawn deck. I play 5-drop Smoker on the board, discarding Kobe to the trash. My opponent slams down the 10-drop Kaido. They pay 6 extra Dawn cards to KO the rest of the board, but because both my Borsellinos and Smoker are protected from KO effects, they remain. My opponent swings for 5 with their leader, but I just go ahead and learn my lesson from last time, blocking with Borsellino. I start my turn and swing 9,000 at my opponent's leader while they only have 2 cards in hand. They take the life card, and then I attach all remaining Dawn except for 1 to my leader Smoker and swing for the game. Moving on lightning quick to our round 2 game, we have our first red deck of the day against Zoro. My opponent wins the dice roll and decides to go second. I activate my first Dawn and pass. My opponent then starts their turn with 2 Dawn and 6 cards in hand and plays the 2-cost, 1-cost Searcher. They add Otama off of that effect, and then they proceed to pass turn back to me. I draw, go to 3 Dawn, attack immediately with my leader, again doing so before I play any other cards for turn. After my opponent takes the damage, I'm going to play a Kobe for turn, discard a card from my hand, and get rid of that Curly, trying to stave off some of the early aggression my opponent could throw my way. My opponent starts their turn and immediately attacks with their leader, kind of copying my play, but alright. After a good long while, I decide to add the life card to my hand, not activating any potential triggers. My opponent plays a 1-cost Nami to search the top 5 for a Straw Hat Crew and add it to their hand. They whiff and put the 5 cards to the bottom. After that, they end their turn by playing a Nico Robin. Pass this back to me, and once again, I immediately declare an attack with my leader, trying to get as much early damage in as I can against the Zoro. I then play a 5-drop Garp, immediately use the effect, resting, discarding a card to get rid of that Nico Robin, and I pass turn. My opponent pays 1 Dawn to play the promo Gordon. Using Gordon's effect, they place it to the bottom of the deck to reduce my Garp by 3,000 power. They then attach 1 Dawn to Zoro, boosting their entire board by 1,000, and attack with Nami 3k into my 3k Garp. I counter to protect Garp, and as a result of this, my opponent then attacks again with the 6,000 leader into my 3,000 Monkey to Garp. I decide to let it get KO'd. My opponent ends their turn by playing yet another Nico Robin. I use the effect of Smoker to reduce Nami to a cost of 0 and increase his power by 1,000. I then attack with Kobe and then attack with my leader. After having my Kobe KO'd by a triggered Jet Pistol, I then pay 6 for Sakazuki, use his on-play effect to delete or KO Nico Robin. My opponent starts their turn, uses 1 Dawn to play Otama, and then pays another 4 for Jet Pistol to KO my Sakazuki. When it comes back to my turn, I activate the effect of Smoker and give him 5 Dawn, making him a total of 11,000 power. After making the Otama a 0-costed card, I then swing at their leader. I'm doing my best to get as much damage in now as I possibly can, because from this point forward, the 9-drop Whitebeard can come down and make it very hard to deal damage. My opponent takes the life, I then play a 4-drop Kuzan and pass turn. It goes back to my opponent, and here's that 9-drop Whitebeard, increasing his power by 2,000 and making it even harder during my turn to actually aggress. I start my turn by paying 4 for yet another Kuzan, trying to see as many different cards as possible, digging for potential removal spells. I then use Smoker's effect to reduce Otama to a 0 cost, making him 7,000. I attack, my opponent uses a 1k counter to stop the attack. I then pay 5 for a 5-drop Smoker and end my turn. My opponent then attacks with a 9-drop Whitebeard for 10,000 at my leader. I decide to take the life and add it to my hand. And here comes Whitebeard number 2. Missing that removal on the last turn to get rid of the 9-drop Whitebeard is so huge. These are extremely threatening. I start this turn by using Smoker's effect to increase his power to 7,000 while reducing the Otama to 0 cost. I then use Smoker to attack for 9,000 and my opposing leader's 7,000. My opponent takes it. I then swing 10,000 with my leader at my opponent's leader, and then I end my turn by playing Borsalino after my opponent uses a Radical Beam to protect himself. My opponent swings for 11 at my leader after using Zoro's effect to pump up his board. I decide to take this damage, and then I reveal the White Out trigger effect, which allows all of my characters in play not to be KO'd, and it draws me a card. My opponent's now in a sticky situation, because if he overcommits to a single unit, I can just block that attack and then counter out the other one, so he's trying to figure out the best way to actually allocate his Dawn to go for the winning blow. He decides to pay 5 Dawn to play a Rush Luffy from his hand that is currently 7,000 power. My opponent then swings for 11,000 power, unblockable, with the Luffy at my leader. Using 3 2Ks and 1 1K from my hand, I completely stop the attack with counters. He swings 11 again with Whitebeard, I then block with Borsalino, and then he swings 6 with leader. I reveal the last 2K in my hand to stop the attack. This just goes to show, if you don't draw removal but do draw defense, you can survive against anything. I start my turn, give 10 Dawn to my 5-drop Smoker, and swing 17 for game. Woo! That was a super close match. This just shows the power of Whitebeard and the power of using cards like Kuzan to cycle and have the perfect defensive hand going into turns like that. No time to celebrate. Let's go ahead and head into round 3. We are fighting against yet another red deck, but this time we are not up against the first mate. We're up against the captain himself, Monkey D. Luffy. For once, I'm not actually forced to go first. My opponent opens 1 Dawn and passes. I draw for turn, activate 2 Dawn, and then pass back. My opponent starts their turn and immediately attacks their leader. I'm telling y'all, always attack before you play anything. It'll definitely save you in the long run. He then plays 3 for Nico Robin and passes turn. We've seen this before. I go to 4 Dawn, attach 1 to my leader and swing for 6,000 while reducing the Nico Robin to a 2-cost card. My opponent looks at the life, adds it to the hand. I then end my turn by playing Kobe, discarding a card from my hand and KOing the Nico Robin. My opponent starts their turn by playing a Nami, looking at the top 5 cards for a Straw Hat Crew. Let's see if this one whiffs. It does not. It adds the Gum Gum Red Hawk to hand. He then uses the leader ability and attacks me for 6,000. I counter with a 2k to stop the attack. He then ends his turn by playing a 4-cost Brook. I attach it onto Kobe and poke my opponent's leader for 5. He counters with a 2k actually. I use the effect of Smoker to reduce Nami to 0 and swing for 7,000 at his leader. He takes the life. I then end my turn by playing a Borsalino. My opponent immediately attacks for 7,000 with Brook, reducing both of my characters by a power of 2,000. I take the life. He then plays a Makino and uses her effect to increase Nami's power by 3,000. He then swings for 5 into my Kobe. I then block with Borsalino, who is 6,000 power during my opponent's turn, but is now 4,000 due to Brook, so I'm forced to use a 2k counter to protect him. My opponent then uses a 3-drop Zoro, who has Rush, to attack my Kobe again, and then attacks with his leader, KOing both characters. It goes back to me with an empty board. I use 1 Dawn on my Smoker to make Nami 0 cost and attack Brook for 7,000 power. My opponent counters to 8,000 using 2 cards in hand to protect the Brook. I play a 4-drop Kuzan to draw a card, and then I play a Kobe to end my turn by KOing the Zoro. My opponent starts their next turn by using Makino to again pump Nami to 5,000, and then he starts to poke my leader. I counter to 6,000. He then plays the 9-drop Whitebeard, increasing his leader by 2,000, uses Luffy's effect to become 8,000, and then attacks my leader. I take the life, add it to my hand, and it goes back to me. It's at this point in the game where having a 10-drop Kuzan would be super nice, but not in these streets. I start my turn by attacking with Kuzan, reducing the cost of Whitebeard by 4, KOing the Nami. I then KO the Makino with Kobe, and then I play Sakazuki to KO the newly cost-reduced Whitebeard. I then give my leader 2 Dawn and swing for 7. I definitely should have used his effect to reduce a cost of something random to 0, so that way he could swing for at least 1,000 power more. My opponent starts their turn, swings 7,000 into Kuzan, reducing the power of both Kobe and Kuzan, so it's 7,000 to 3,000. It's not worth countering. I lose my entire board after he attacks with Luffy. My opponent then plays a Rush Zoro, gives him 5 Dawn, and swings 10,000 at my leader. 10,000 is just a little too big for me to counter out right now. I take the life. I swing Sakazuki into Brook, KOing him. I then give 2 Dawn to my leader and swing at Zoro. My opponent uses Gum Gun Red Hawk to protect him. I then play a 4-drop Kuzan, draw a card, and then play Borsalino. Earlier on in the game, I discarded a Monkey D Garb for the cost of some of my effects. That was definitely a mistake to get rid of. It would have been so clutch here, getting rid of the Zoro after he committed even more cards to protecting it. My opponent starts their turn, gives a bunch of Dawn to their leader, and declares an attack. I decide to block with Borsalino. They then give the rest of their Dawn to the leader. I swing, and I block for 9,000. I start my turn, I swing at Zoro for 5 with Kuzan. I then swing for 7,000 with Sakazuki at leader. He takes the life. I then swing for 7,000 with my leader. He takes the life, and I end my turn by playing the 5-drop Sengoku. My opponent draws, plays a Nami, and adds a Zoro to hand. He then plays a second Nami, adding Diable Jambe to his hand. My opponent swings 9,000 at my Kuzan, KOing him, and then he pays 3 for a copy of Zoro and swings for 7,000 at my leader. I use Shockwave to stop the attack and KO one of the unrested Nico Robins. I start my turn, I make everything on my board at least 7,000, and then I attack his leader for 9k. My opponent reveals Gum Gum Red Hawk in the life, reduces Sengoku by 10,000 power. I then give the rest of my Dawn to my leader and swing for game. Man, red is such a powerful color. I think I only made like 1 or 2 gross misplays in that game, but we were still able to bring it back thanks to the power of removal and owning board. All right, y'all, I'm here in Dragon Shield Corner giving you the second update of the day, but it's after round 3. I already told you I won against Kaido in round 1. I followed that up with a win against Zoro and a win against Luffy. Currently 3-0, 2 rounds to go with the $100 Smoker deck that I built for today's local lottery episode. I'm not really sure if by the time you're watching this that I'm doing like voiceover or just like live replays. I actually haven't figured that out yet. Obviously, TrueChampionSteven would have already figured that out. But honestly, the caliber of player out here today is insane. And the looks on their faces every time I tell them I'm not actually playing with like what I would consider to be the best version of Smoker blows their minds, because they were playing around cards that I don't have. And so it was actually really interesting, like showing off things like Isuka or the 5-drop Sengoku and watching their faces go, oh, I did not realize that was even a thing, and how valuable that was for me today. Definitely MVPs, though, are going to be the 4-drop Kuzan and the 5-drop Garp. Every time I drop Garp, he's basically a blocker and a removal spell, which feels kind of broken. So, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. We're playing pretty well. 2 rounds to go. Let's see if we can keep it up. See you guys in the next one. Moving on to the next round, we were fighting against yet another red Luffy deck. I once again lost the dice roll and was forced to go first. My opponent starts their turn by playing a Nami and adds a Zoro to hand. I draw, attach it on a Smoker, and swing for 7,000 at my opponent's leader while making his Nami 0 cost. My opponent starts their turn by playing Makino, uses her effect to increase Nami to 5,000, pokes me for a damage, then pokes me for 6,000 with his leader, and then he ends his turn by using Rush Zoro to attack. I take pretty much all of it. Back to me, I immediately swing for 5,000 into his Nami with my Smoker, and then I use Monkey D. Garp's effect to KO the Zoro, passing it back to my opponent. My opponent immediately jet pistols my Garp and then swings for 5 with his leader. I counter 1k with Kobe, he plays a second Makino, and then swings for 5,000 with the other one after using her effect. I take the life, going down to 2, I then swing 5k at one of the rested Makinos and play a second Garp, getting rid of the other one. My opponent uses a Curly to add a Gordon to hand, then immediately uses the Gordon to make Garp 3,000 power, and swings for 8,000 into Garp. I decide to let him go, and then he ends his turn by playing Nico Robin. I swing for 7 with my leader at my opponent, putting him down to 3 life cards, and then I pay 6 to play Sakazuki, KOing the Nico Robin. My opponent plays 9-drop Whitebeard, and then using Luffy's effect becomes 8,000 to attack my leader. I take the life card going down to 1, and then during my turn, I attach 4 Dawn to my leader and swing for 9 into his 7. I then attach 4 more Dawn to Sakazuki, swinging for 11 at his leader. My opponent uses Radical Beam and 1 counter in hand to stop the attack. I pass turn. My opponent pays 1 for Nico Robin and adds Usopp to hand. He then uses Luffy's effect to attack for 11 with Whitebeard at my Sakazuki. I use Shockwave to KO the Curly and a 2k counter to protect him. My opponent then plays 9 for a second copy of Whitebeard and swings for 7,000 now at my leader. I counter out with 2 2Ks and then it becomes my turn. I use 5 Dawn on my leader as well as his own effect to make him 11,000, swinging at my opponent's leader, and then I swing for another 11,000 with Sakazuki, passing turn. My opponent then uses 2 Zoros with Rush as well as one of his Whitebeards to close out the game. Yeah, that was definitely a game where I did not have access to nearly as much late game removal for those big 9-drop Whitebeards, and they can easily take over the board. Well, y'all, it happened. The Cinderella story has come to a close. Round 4 against Red Luffy, as you saw, ended in our loss. I don't know. I had definitely plenty of plays that I could have done differently. Like the turn I went for Sakazuki, I could have played Great Volcano instead to get rid of the Nico Robin, but that would have required me to play 2 2-drop Sengokus that are both 2Ks, and it just didn't feel worth it because on the off chance he doesn't do a 9-drop Whitebeard turn, it gets super punished. Officially 3-1 going into the last round. Still super proud of my performance. Let's end local lottery with a win. Moving on to our last match of the day, and boy, do we have a good one. Not only are we fighting against a mirror match against a max rarity smoker, but we're playing against a good friend of mine, Justin. He's a local player here. I've known him for a long time in a bunch of different card game communities, and this was a super awesome match. He decides to go first after winning the dice roll. We then each pass 2 turns in a row, and then immediately on his second turn, he swings for 5 at my leader, and I reveal the Great Eruption trigger to draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from my hand. After that, he plays the 3-drop Smoker, which is basically a 6,000 attacker that cannot be KO'd by card effects. Going back to me, I swing for 5,000 at his leader. I then play the 4-drop Kuzan to draw a card and pass turn. My opponent starts by attaching a Dawn to Smoker, reducing the cost of Kuzan, and then playing a Kobe from hand to KO the now 3-costed Kuzan. He swings for 5 with Smoker, I take it and add the card to my hand, and then he swings for 6 with Smoker, I then stop for 2k. Back to my turn, I attach a Dawn to my Smoker and attack his character Smoker for 6,000, it KOs him, and then I play a Kobe to discard a card from my hand and KO his Kobe. Back over to Justin, he immediately attacks for 5,000 at my leader, I take it, and then he goes for his own copy of Kuzan, but a max rarity version that's much more pretty, and then he plays his own Kobe to get rid of my Kobe. Did I mention this was a mirror match? I use the effect of Smoker to reduce Kuzan by 1. I then use a second Kobe to KO his now 3-costed Kuzan, and then I end my turn by playing my own Kuzan. I love that we're both just making each other's board turn after turn after turn. He swings 5 at my leader, I then counter for 1k to stop it. He uses his Sakazuki to KO my 4-drop Kuzan. He then gives his remaining 3 Dawn to Kobe and swings for 7 at my leader. I take it. I have 1 life to his 3. I then use Kobe to attack his rested Kobe, KOing it. I use Smoker's effect to reduce Sakazuki to become a cost of 5. And then I swing for 7 at his leader. He takes the life. I then use the 2-drop Tashigi to reduce the Sakazuki by a further 2 cost, and then play my 3rd Kobe for the game to KO his Sakazuki. He then attacks my Tashigi with his leader. I counter 2k to protect it because more bodies on board, the better. And then he plays a 10-drop Kuzan for turn, reducing the cost of all of my characters by 5 and KOing my now 0-costed Tashigi. I start my turn by attacking his leader for 5,000 with Kobe. He counters to stop, and then I attack for 7,000 with my other Kobe. After using my leader to attack for 7k, eating 2 cards out of my opponent's hand, I end my turn by playing Borsalino. Back over to my opponent, he uses Smoker's effect to essentially gain plus 1,000 power because all my characters are 0 cost. He then swings 7 at one of my Kobes, I let it get KO'd, and then he swings Kuzan into one of my other Kobes, I let that one get KO'd. He then plays 4-drop Kuzan and Borsalino to end his turn. I give 4 Don to my leader and swing 9,000 at him. He takes the life and gets it to his hand. I then swing 9,000 with Borsalino. He blocks and his Borsalino gets KO'd. He starts his turn, makes Smoker 7,000. He gives 2 Don to Kuzan and swings 7,000 at my leader. I use Shockwave to counter out of the attack. He gives 5 more Don to his leader Smoker, making him a total of 12,000. I take the attack, and he swings for a second 12,000 at my leader. I use not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 2Ks to counter out of the attack. From there, he just concedes because he knows he can't stop 15,000 coming at his face from my leader. That was a super close game against my pal Justin, but I'm so glad we won it. We had the literal minimum rarity black deck going up against that gorgeous max rarity black deck, and we were able to get the win. After this match, the tournament was officially over, and because I went X and 1, we finished in the top 4 and got essentially winner's prizing due to the number of players that we had playing in the local. And I know, I said at the beginning of this that this show is not about like, oh, let's see how awesome Steven is at so many different card games. Let's just actually experience all the awesome card games that exist in this world. But it's pretty nice when you open a winner Ezo after playing a deck you've never played before in a One Piece tournament. With that said though, that ends the first episode of Local Lottery, a series I hope to make many episodes for in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. If you watched the video this far in, comment down below Ezo and I'll know you are a true champion. Also, be sure to like the video and subscribe, and if you do want to leave some more comments, let me know what you really enjoyed about the video and what we could improve on for future episodes. With that said, thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been your true champion, Steven. Be sure to work hard, rest easy, and live well. And I will see you all next time. Peace.